Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heartlight Vedic Astrology. In today's talk, I was going to discuss mantras for the sun or Surya, as it's known as in Sanskrit, and this is from a Vedic astrology or Jyotish perspective that I'll be talking about. Let's talk about the sun first and what it really means, like why we care about the sun, why we might be interested in the sun and sun mantras, okay? So again, sun is Surya in Sanskrit. And the sun symbolizes many things in Vedic astrology. Vedic astrology is also known as Jyotish, and it's ancient Indian astrology that's more than 5,000 years old. And just a note, I have a bunch of different terms in here, astrology terms, which you may or may not be familiar with. Wherever I have a double asterisk next to a word, that means that there's a video on that topic if you'd like to learn more. Just FYI. Okay, but the sun. So it represents many, many things. I have a whole video on symbolism of the sun or Surya, okay? Some of the big things that, probably main things that the sun represents is it represents health, general health, okay? But specifically within health, the central nervous system, the heart, the eyes, the bones, okay? Also, just generally vitality, like the sun is always shining, radiating, and increasing growth of plants and animals, and that's in us as well. Okay. The sun also represents the soul. So, yeah, another big topic there. It also represents career and profession. It also represents as a kind of personalized or personage related to the sun. It could be sun is related to father. It's related to authority. It's related to boss. It's related to government. It's related to king and or president. Okay. So, especially when these areas of life are challenged, excuse me, then somebody might be considering mantra for the sun from a Vedic astrology perspective. The thing, though, before you jump on top of a sun mantra, you want to make sure that the sun, as a planet, is actually what's causing the issue. Because it's not always just because the sun represents these things, it doesn't necessarily mean that the sun is the problem. Okay. For example, the sun could be with a bunch of natural malefic planets. So the sun otherwise would be strong. So maybe, remedies related to these other planets are better or more important. Okay. So anyway, again, just a proper diagnosis of which planets or which effects of a birth chart are problematic need to be determined first. Okay. So, I mentioned a few reasons, like, again, these are the health and soul, career, father, authority, that sort of thing. When these areas of life are challenged, it might be time or a good idea to do a sun mantra. But why might we want to do like a sun mantra? And in Vedic astrology, we call these planetary remedies or upayas. Okay. Doing a mantra like the sun mantra is an upaya. Okay. Well, the thing is, just like many of us, walking around on the planet Earth, look to the sun as the center of the universe. It's also the center of Jyotish. Okay, Jyotish is also known as the study of light, and again, most of that light is coming from the sun. So, um, and the other thing is that when we're looking at a birth chart and we're determining strength or weakness of planets, a lot of times what we're looking at is how much light is that planet reflecting. For example, when we talk about new moon versus full moon, a new moon is completely dark because it's essentially eclipsed by the sun. Full moon is the brightest moon because it's 100% reflecting the light of the sun. And a full moon is considered stronger than a new moon. Another example is our combust planets. So combust planets, um, they're when true planets get so close to the sun, usually within about 10 degrees, that essentially they're eclipsed. You can't see them in the sky anymore with your eyes. Okay. And when planets are combust, typically what happens when they're not shining, we're not, we can't see the light reflecting off these planets. sun's light reflecting off these planets, we usually don't see much physical external manifestation of the things that those planets symbolize in our life. Okay, so for example, Mars, like if Mars is combust, Mars represents siblings. It also represents enemies. So it may be that either you have a sibling that you don't see very much or very often, or enemies can be hidden, or enemies can be internal. So the external effects of a planet may not be so prevalent or obvious in somebody's life. The internal qualities of the combust planets are stronger. Okay. So again, just a few examples here. So what else might be going on with the sun that you might consider like a sun remedy or mantra for an upaya? If the sun in your birth chart, also known as the horoscope or natal chart, is weak or challenged, or you're running your sun period, which is also known as the Shah period, because in Vedic astrology, the different planetary periods run at different times. And so if your sun is challenged and you happen to be running your sun period, then that can cause even more issues with sun-related things, okay? If the sun is debilitated in a chart, so specifically, sun is debilitated in the constellation of Libra. Okay. If the sun is eclipsed, so for example, if there's a solar eclipse, and to do so, you would need basically Rahu, Ketu, and Moon all, and the sun, those four planets or entities all within about 9 degrees of each other to get a solar eclipse. Because again, when the sun itself is eclipsed, that means that it's not shining light, like everything's dark essentially. Okay. The whole, all the planets in the chart. If the sun is what we call Sandhi or Gandanta. So Sandhi means that a planet is in the first or last degree of any sign. Because in being in the first or last degree of any sign, it's inherently unstable. Because when you're crossing constellations or signs, you're changing elemental factors. So, like, you might be moving from a fire sign to an earth sign, or an earth sign to an air sign. And so, just changing those elements will bring some instability to any planet. So, again, when the sun is Sandhi, it brings instability. Gandanta are 3 specific Sandhi points. So Gandanta points are when you're going from a water sign to a fire sign. So, for example, from Scorpio to Sagittarius, or from Cancer to, was it Leo, or from Pisces to Aries. Okay. The reason why Gandanta is actually considered to be even more unstable than Sandhi, because at these Gandanta points, not only are you changing elements, from water or from water to fire. But these Gandanta points also line up where the nakshatras change as well, transition as well. Nakshatras are lunar mansions. There's about 27 lunar mansions, and they all have different energies. And so the moon transits through these different lunar mansions or nakshatras, a different one every night. So after about 27 nights, you get a lunar month. Okay. So when the sun or any planet is at a Gandanta point, not only is it unstable because it's changing elements, but it's changing nakshatras. Okay. So if there are issues with Leo constellation, because Leo is ruled by the sun. Okay, Leo is known as Simha Rashi in Sanskrit. So maybe the sun is strong, like maybe the sun is Aries where it's exalted. But in Leo, you have a bunch of malefic planets. So the problem isn't, necessarily the sun, but by chanting mantras to the sun, you might be able to improve the area of Leo if Leo is specifically challenged. Okay. So as I mentioned, if the sun is with a lot of other malefic planets, chanting mantras may be helpful. Uh, and the natural malefic planets are Rahu, Ketu, Mars, and Saturn. So 4 out of 9 classic Jyotish planets. Sometimes Mercury can be malefic. If it's with other malefic planets. It can swing either way. And the moon is considered malefic when it's in a new or dark phase. Okay. If the sun is in or rules a negative house, and the negative houses are 3, 6, 8, and 12, that could potentially be a challenge to the sun. If the sun is a Chidragraha, so Chidragrahas are planets of vulnerability. This is um, determined by deeper sub zodiac analysis of a chart. And when a planet is a Chidragraha, that means that it's like a sensitive point or Achilles heel for somebody. Can be. Okay. So another reason why somebody might want to chant the sun mantras are like at the beginning of the solar new year. So when sun is transiting the first zodiac constellation or Rashi, which is Aries or Mesha, which is currently happening, and that's what kind of inspired me to actually create this talk. Another time that might be interesting or helpful is during either the June or December solstice. So again, depending on where you are in the world, sometimes it's winter or summer transition, but it's a big transition period astronomically for the sun. Okay, so let's move ahead here. And on this slide, so I've been talking about the sun. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about mantras. So if you're not familiar, so mantra, what is it? It's a Sanskrit syllable. Sometimes they're not whole words. Sometimes they're just syllables or words. Okay. Now this sounds very simple, but the thing is that Sanskrit syllables and words have energetic properties. Right. You may have heard of the seven chakra system that start. First one is at the base of the spine, and they go up to the top of the head, 1 through 7. And each of those chakras or wheels has different petals associated with them. And some people kind of visualize them as petals of a flower. You might even consider them to be like petals on like a piano. Okay. So when you chant different Sanskrit syllables, and sometimes the syllables are, gather together into words, then you're essentially pressing on the energetic keys of these chakras. And so when you chant a mantra, what happens is it has this energetic cleansing and balancing effect on various levels: mental, emotional, physical, and also karmic. I do have another video. I didn't want to get too deep into karma in this video, but I do have a video on different types of karma in Vedic Astrology or Jyotish if you want to get into that. Okay. So anyway, when we chant mantras, essentially it's a cleansing, balancing effect on various levels. So how do we chant mantras? Well, classically, to begin a practice, one would do 108 repetitions by 40 days. And this is generally my recommendation. Some people go longer and hours are chanting, days on end. It can be very intense for some people. But, again, especially if you're starting out, 108 repetitions by 40 days is a lot and plenty and, quite helpful. Okay. There are different ways that you can keep track of the repetitions. Some people use a mala or a string of beads, string of 108 beads to keep track. Some people make marks on a piece of paper, like they'll do, cross just make lines like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then cross the fifth one for the 4 previous lines, to keep track that way. Some people can keep track on their fingers, you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on one hand, and then the other hand you close like your thumb to mark the first 5, and it's a whole kind of thing that you can do. Some people, what they'll do is they'll chant a mantra and time it. Like maybe a short mantra would take 4 minutes. Short mantra like the first one I'm gonna talk about. You can easily do a short mantra in a few minutes. So uh, sometimes you just chant the mantra for 5 minutes and you've completed at least 108 repetitions. It may not be exactly 108, but at least 108 have been completed. Okay. So there's different ways to keep track of that. Also, you might consider starting on a Sunday, because that is the day of the sun, solstice, solar eclipse, sun transiting Libra, sun transiting any sign. That's called Samkranti. That's also another transit way that the sun can be unstable. And basically, when the sun is transiting the sign in a birth chart, it would be Sunday, in the first or last degree of any sign and or Gandanta, if it's also moving from a fire sign or from a water sign to a fire sign. Or you might start a sun mantra at the start of a sun dasha if you know it's going to be problematic. So anyway, I have a whole video on chanting and more details about chanting and effects and things to consider and look out for. I wasn't going to get into the details of that, but that video is on my other YouTube channel called Nature Source Care. And the name of the video is How to Chant Mantras. So if you want more details on a chanting practice, I would look at that. Okay, and for more content like this, if you're interested in mantras and upayas or planetary remedies, I have specific playlists. So, like, I have another video on chanting mantras for Rahu, Ketu, and eclipses or Grahan, since Rahu and Ketu are vital for forming eclipses. So, the first very simple sun mantra I would suggest is Om Shri Surya Namaha. Okay, so Om is the universal sound of creation. It's actually sounds like A-U-M, even though it's usually printed as like O-M in English. So to create the sound of you basically are starting in the back of the throat. Ah, okay. And then when you say ooh, you're moving the sound forward to the middle of the mouth. And then when you say you're moving the sound forward to the lips. Okay. So when you say you're creating a circle with your sound and with your mouth and lips, throat. Okay. So, and that again, that circle is a symbol. So Om, the sound Om, and the pronunciation of the formation of it is a symbol of all that is. Shri is an honorific. It's like honorable, Shri, like I honor you. Okay. Um, or honorable son is what we're talking about. Surya's son. And again, I'm not a scholar of Sanskrit, so I can't identify exactly the ya, but I'm assuming that's like a topic marker or something like that. But I don't know for sure. But Om Shri Surya Ya, so it's like, salutations. It's like kind of catching the attention of like honorable son. And then Namaha is like, I salute you, I honor you. Okay. So that's a very simple one, that you could easily complete 108 repetitions within 5 minutes. And again, if you want to start like a 108 repetition practice by 40 days. Okay. So that's a simple one. On the next slide, we have the Gayatri Mantra. Okay. So this is not definitely not the longest mantra. It's a little bit longer than the one I just suggested. But this is like in some ways, well, I'll talk about it. But it's I would say even more deep and expansive and probably aspirational than the one that I just listed. Okay. So there are two different forms of the Gayatri Mantra: the long form, which I've listed at the top here, and the short form. Okay. And the Gayatri Mantra is quite old. It's actually cited in the Rig, the Samana, Yajur Vedas, the three of the four Vedas, which are the oldest kind of text, sacred text of Hindu culture and Indian culture, even that really kind of create all sorts of like rituals and this kind of sets the philosophy, the cosmology and philosophy of that time and that world. Okay. So I'll just say the Gayatri Mantra and talk more about it, kind of get into it a little bit, but it's Om Bu, Om Bhuvava, Om Swaha, Om Manha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam, Om Tat Savitur Varenyam, Vargo Devasya Dimahi, Yo Yonah Chodayat. Okay, that's the long form. The short form usually eliminates the second line completely, and it also eliminates the second two ohms on the first line. So it would be Om Bu Bhuva Swaha Om Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dimahi Yo Yona Chodayat. Okay. So either one, it is possible. Yeah, is useful. Okay. So the general meaning of this mantra is "O self-effulgent light," and this is not my translation. This is a translation from Thomas Ashley Farrand. Um, so "O self-effulgent light," so "O great, self-radiating light that has given birth to the lokas," and the lokas are different planes of existence, which I'll get into. But essentially, in Indian or Hindu cosmology, there are 7 planes of existence. Where like the spiritual entities live and are enlightened. Okay. So we're essentially like, even though we're talking about the sun here, the sun is actually just like a lower level of these other planes of spiritual existence. Okay. So that's why, like, already you're like, this is again in a way deeper, broader, and more aspirational, I would say, than the very simple one. But hey, everybody's whatever resonates, whatever works for you. But so let's keep going here. So who is worthy of worship and appears through the orbit of the sun, illumine our intellect. Okay, so it's a request basically to, just like the way that the sun radiates and permeates all of existence, at least here on Earth, and helps us grow and become vital. Like, essentially, the request is bring that light and vitality to these higher levels of my existence and my consciousness. So pretty deep. Right? So specifically, each word like Ombu refers to the earth plane, which is also related to the first chakra. So again, we're getting back to, for 1 through 7 chakras here. And Om Bhuvaha is the atmospheric plane, or the second chakra. And Om Swaha is the solar region, or third chakra. And Om Maha, first spiritual region beyond the sun, also the heart vibration of the fourth chakra. So just like with the 7 chakras, the first 3 are considered to be the more kind of mundane chakras, and then the heart is kind of the transition point from the earthly realm to the spiritual realm. We're seeing that here with these words. And then, was it Om Janaha? So second spiritual region beyond the sun. So this is the loka of the power of the spiritual, divine spiritual world, or the 5th chakra. The divine spiritual word, or the 5th chakra. And Om Tapaha, this is the 3rd spiritual region beyond the sun. And this is the sphere of progenitors. So this is the 6th chakra. And it's also the highest realm of spiritual understanding while still identifying as an individual, like as a human being on this planet. Because at some point, if you transcend human existence, like, you're beyond all of this. Um, and then Om Satyam, the abode of supreme truth. And this is where you merge or absorb yourself into the supreme. And again, you start to lose that self identity as a human, really, individual person. This is the 7th chakra. And then Om Tat Savatur Varenyam, the realm of truth that is beyond human comprehension. And within that, Sabatur is actually a solar deity. Okay. Then there's Bargo Devasya Dimahi Diyo Yo Naha Chodaya. So in that place where all celestials and of all the spheres have received enlightenment, finally enlightened our intellect. So again, like, essentially what this mantra is doing is like, um, questing our aspiration, or asking to be lifted and enlightened into the higher realms with these celestial beings. So again, yeah, pretty deep. So just a few words. Again, these aren't my words, but I feel like they're very, kind of the summary, of what this mantra is and why it's important. So, this is considered to be the mantra of the universe. So not just the sun, but the universe. And the sun is just kind of well, it's kind of funny. As important as the sun is, it's almost like the sun is just like a small marker for kind of the edge of human existence, and also the gateway to higher levels of consciousness. Okay. But again, the quote here is mantra of the universe itself in all upper spheres of spiritual light. And then also some other words, the essence of all mantras, for all spiritual powers and potencies are contained within it, meaning the Gayatri Mantra. This is the mantra for supreme for achieving enlightenment, and it's universally practiced because there are many, many, many mantras, and there are many, many different schools and thoughts and sects of chanting different mantras. Everybody has their favorite or whatever. Um, but this is one that's almost everybody, honors. So, in that way, it's universal. Yeah. Okay, so on this slide, I have a list of different Gayatri Mantra kirtan artists. So kirtan is chanting mantras, usually to music over and over again. So some of these artists I've been listening to for decades, a really long time. So it not just helped me in my spiritual practice and yoga practice, but my students as well. So I'll just go through their names in the album in which they have a Gayatri Mantra version. Um, this is in alphabetical order. So Cynthia, Snodgrass, and Jim Oliver, their album honoring, then Deva, Premal, and Miten, their album The Essence. Gayatri Mantra Japa, traditional style music for deep meditation. The album is Yoga, Love, and Compassion, Maha Mantra of the Goddess. Hark, album Hark Inside Chants. Julia Lena, album Mantra Chants. Christian Thorsager, album Falling into Grace. Tina Malia and Shimshai, album Jaya Bhagavan. And then there's her album JJJ. So again, I've listed these just in case that they're helpful to you. I wanted, one, I wanted to honor these artists who've been, I don't know, I just love their work and appreciate it so much. So there's that. But I also wanted to support you in your spiritual practice if that's something you're interested in. And especially when because some people like to just, chant with beads or their malas. Some people like to feel kind of more connected and kind of have more of a bhakti or heart-based practice. And sometimes chanting to mantra, chanting to kirtan artists kind of changes the energy of the practice a bit. Um, feels more maybe integrative or connected or heart-centered, that sort of thing, potentially. Or sometimes it helps you feel um, like you're kind of sometimes, or at least I feel sometimes like I'm actually chanting almost like with my whole body when I feel the vibration of the music around me. And sometimes too, sometimes like when you're really having a tough time, um, it's hard, sometimes it's hard to sit down and do your practice. And sometimes, what my yoga students have done is like just, turn the music on and just like let the music, we just kind of let the music come and like wash over us and, shift our energy, like sometimes you've got days like that. So, in so many ways, I find these kirtan art are so helpful. So anyway, yeah. So again, I have links for information for them. Sometimes it's their YouTube channel if I could find their official one. Sometimes it's their Spotify for their specific Gayatri Mantra version, so you can listen to that. I did reach out to the artist if I found direct contact information from them and just asked them if they had if the information I had was correct or if they would prefer a change or any additions or whatever to continue to support their work. Um, and so if I did have contact information for them and they got back to me, I've included that. And all of that information, all those links are in the description box below so that you can maybe sample some of their work. Um, and just so you know, I mean, there's no commission or exchange that happened. I just reached out to them because I wanted to support both you guys in your spiritual practice as well as the artists. And in terms of, again, some of these songs almost 20 years old, and they've been a lifeline for me through the years. So I just wanted to share them with you. Okay, so there you go. So as always, thanks so much for stopping by, listening to one of my talks. I appreciate all the support you guys give of my work and the channel. Just simply stopping by, listening to talks, or liking, subscribing, sending in donations. All of it's very much appreciated. So thank you for all of that. So as always, I hope you found this talk helpful, useful, and interesting to you as you learn to navigate the energy cycles of your own life. All right. So until the next one, take good care. Namaste.